an Australian family found out that their husband and their father was actually a murderer.
With Father's Day coming up soon.
With Father's Day coming up, might be a great time might be a great time to invest in an Ancestry.com kit or 23andMe, and that's make sure your father's not a deranged killer. So, some new DNA evidence revealed that a Nebraska teenager who shot his parents in the 50s, then escaped from prison, lived out his life in Australia as a successful businessman, devoted husband, and doting father. So this guy, Leslie Arnold, was 16 and killed his parents after a dispute over the use of the family car. He essentially wanted to take his then girlfriend out to the movies.
Sure.
Mom said no because she felt that the girlfriend was white trash. So Opal, so Opal Arnold, she said nope to let him take his girlfriend Crystal out in the family's new Mercury sedan to a drive-in movie, and he becomes enraged. So tensions had been simmering over his relationship with the girl who his mother called white trash, and he retrieves a rifle from his parents' room on September 27, 1958, and confronts his mom. Now, I'm assuming he had to tell this because otherwise I don't know. But obviously the mother wasn't available for comment, but according to the article, her words were, "What are you going to do? Shoot me?" Well,
classic mom.
And he did. He answered with 6 pulls of the trigger. 6. Then his dad comes home with groceries tucked under his arm. The two struggle, and Arnold ends up eventually wrestling the gun away and shooting the dad and killing him. So they have a younger son, James, who's 13. He takes James over to the neighbors and pretty much says, hey, parents had to go on an emergency trip to help his grandparents out. Can you watch the kid? He then takes Crystal to the drive-in movie where they watch the horror flick The Undead.
Wow.
Now, he doesn't even... Cold-blooded. Now, he doesn't even go home and bury the parents right away. He does it the next night in a shallow grave, and the grandparents finally show up. And at that point, he confesses to their murders. So now... he's, after he pleads guilty, he sends in a letter of apology to his neighbor and, saying, hey, my parents were great. I never knew how great they were. So he goes to jail. After serving 8 years behind bars, Arnold and his fellow inmate James Harding hatched a scheme to break out with the help of a recent parolee. Now... somehow he manages to toss them saw blades and rubber mats into the prison yard. Apparently, security was
important to say. This was like in the 60s, so things are a little different now.
Sure, I would hope so. But I mean, although now they're dropping drone stuff into the in the courtyards and stuff, but. So they managed to saw off the bars of a window in the facility's music room. This guy is like an accomplished, I won't say accomplished because he was only 16 at the time, but he was a really good saxophonist. So he's in the music room. They saw off the bars of the window. Again, they then use chewing gum to hold the bars in place.
Again, it's pretty smart. It's pretty smart. If you think about it, like they didn't just like cut the bars and then be like, okay, let's go. They were like, we got to wait for the right time, but this will be here. as long as my big league chew holds, this is these bars will be here and we can get out anytime we want.
You know, what are they chewing in 1958? Beech nut? I don't like. What are they chewing that's that
Bazooka
good?
Joe or
yeah,
I mean, is that what Bazooka gum?
Yeah.
Bazooka Joe was from Mike Tyson's Punch Out. So.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it was just Bazooka Go. I was going to go along with it. Like, yeah, Bazooka Joe, definitely. Yeah, I think you're right.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Pack the punch.
Yeah. So they have this now. They have the bars cut. They have them held in with chewing gum.
Yeah. And don't forget, they have rubber masks. So they have rubber masks now that they attach to their pillows. Apparently, security could not be great, obviously, in the early, mid-late 60s. So on July 14th, 1967, the pair slipped through the window and scaled a 12-foot barbed wire fence. Doesn't really say how they scaled it. I don't know. And how they even scaled a fence. I don't know that I've ever scaled a fence before in my life.
Climb a fence, barbed wire at the top to get out of prison. I mean, I guess if that's the only thing holding you back, I mean, it's like Shawshank, right? I mean, you went through the sewer system. I mean, you'll get over barbed wire if that's the only thing.
Do what you got to do. They were halfway to Chicago, Tab, before they were discovered missing.
Wow.
From Nebraska to Chicago, they were halfway there before they were even discovered missing.
And it was because of the masks, right? Like, wasn't that the issue?
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean,
like they stuck them onto the pillows or something to where it looked like people like they were sleeping.
I guess they were sleeping, and I guess they didn't wake them up and make them come out for mandatory breakfast or whatever back then. So I'm assuming a lot of policies changed at this prison once this escape happened.
Yeah, things might have changed.
Now, this guy didn't immediately move to Australia. He settled in Chicago and married a woman with 4 daughters less than 6 months after he escaped. So
look, this is a good lesson. I want to take a pause here if we could. We have a lot of people that will be listening to this. We have a lot of people watching right now on the live stream on YouTube. We will have people listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever. There is someone for everyone. If you are having problems finding a significant other, having with relationship issues, stuff like that, this is a guy who murdered his parents, went to prison for a few years, broke out of prison, and in a short period of time, he meets a girl, settles down, gets married. Like, there's someone for everyone. So don't, whatever your circumstances are, that guy, he didn't have a defeatist mentality. He didn't say like, no one's probably going to like me because of me murdering my parents and going to prison. No, he didn't worry about things like that. He put himself out there, and that's the most important thing. You got to put yourself
out there. That's it. Put yourself out there. Yeah. So he's now obtained phony identity papers, and he's now assuming the name of John Damon. I have watched, I'm going to guess, no less than 100 TV shows and or movies where people obtain new identities.
Yeah.
I could not tell you the first place to look to do that. I would have no clue. You'd be like, hey, I need to get a new identity. I don't know. I don't know. Because you know what? It never really shows in the movies how they really do it. They're just showing up and the guy just hands them some paper. Who are you calling for this?
Yeah.
Is this the dark web that I've got to go to? How do you get to the dark web? I don't even know how to get to the dark web.
So you're pre-stage 1 of how to do this.
Like I'm the old lady trying to log on to Google, you know? And then, I don't know, we got Silk Road. I mean, how do you get to Silk Road? I don't know. I no idea. But apparently this guy, not a problem, gets his new identity. They end up moving from Cincinnati to Miami. Of course, he's staying out of the one place, so they're relocating a lot. Ends up getting divorced, cuts off all ties with everyone. He had 4 daughters. Not his, but, his ex-wife has 4 daughters. They cut off all ties with them. He then meets his second wife. Not one, but 2. So again,
so there's someone else for everyone.
there's
as well.
someone else for everyone out there. She's a foreign exchange student. They end up getting married. He has a son and a daughter. They moved to New Zealand in 1992 and then settled in Australia in 1997. He earned a respectable living. He spared no expenses for children's education. Just all out, overly supportive. His son would say,
He's a great guy.
Yeah, great guy.
Great guy. Salt of the earth.
He told his family he was an orphan from Chicago. Maybe not completely a lie, I suppose.
Is that true?
I mean, technically, yes.
Yeah.
Self-made orphan, but orphan nonetheless.
Yeah, wow.
So ends up dying.
Bearing the lead there. It's like, I don't really want to get into too much detail. Just, I'm an orphan.
I'm an orphan. That's all you need to know. From the Chicago.
Painful to talk about.
From the Chicago area.
Not Nebraska, where all those prison breaks happen.
Yeah, no, not there at all. Not there. I mean, I'm oddly specific about that, but I just want to make it clear. I'm not from that area.
Passionate. I hate me some Nebraska.
Oh my gosh. So this guy ends up dying August 6, 2010 after battling a clotting condition for several years. I don't know what exactly happened, but sounds
like a Batman villain.
Yeah, he can't clot, and so this other guy comes along, and he's an investigator, and he's on the case. Now, this guy wasn't even born yet before this guy gets already broke out of prison. I'm trying to grab his first name here. His last name is Britton, and I'll apologize here.
You're talking about the investigator.
The investigator, yeah.
But regardless, there's an investigator.
So, yeah, we'll call him Detective Britton is what we'll call him here. His last name is Britton. I can't find his first name here in this article. The guy's not even born yet when this guy escapes prison. So, of course, this guy's got quite a head start on him. So he goes to this guy's brother, who is still alive at the time, and gets his DNA. And, they couldn't obviously make any matches. Well, his son just happened to update his DNA on 23andMe and ends up getting a match. And so the guy calls him or texts him or, messages him and says, hey, I'm his cousin or whatever. Let's meet. They meet over Zoom. And then he gets to tell him, hey, I'm really not your cousin. I am looking for your father. I'm from the U.S. Marshal's office. Your father was a killer. And that's how this guy finds out over Zoom from a detective that his dad was a killer and had no clue at all, obviously. And it's like, what do you really do? Like, on one hand, that's your dad. He was a terrific person, a terrific father. He did something horrible at 16 years old, but yet he was a killer.
I mean, I got to think it's going to affect how you look at him. It just has to, I mean, I don't think there's any way that, but it's true. And we have someone on watching us right now on YouTube on the live stream, and we've been kind of chatting back and forth. And so I'm looking at Tanya here, who was saying that that's why she won't do 23andMe, and it's completely true because that's how they call it the Golden State Killer. It's the exact same scenario, and people don't realize that. Now, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I will say I know you've done the DNA stuff. I haven't done it. I have zero plans to do it. Yep. Not that I have also a long plan of committing tons of crime, but I just feel like it's weird because they won't they will share that stuff with governments and stuff. You don't know what's going to happen with it. And that whole area of things right now is very gray. It's just like there's the rules around DNA. I mean, this is such an early stage of what's going to be happening with DNA technology and DNA information and knowledge. Ain't no telling what's going to happen with that over time.
That's it. And, it's like they can get a match. Like they could hit on me and they could be looking for my fifth cousin somewhere. Right. So they'll come and, they manage to get DNA from me and match it to, someone I haven't even met before, that's happened. Or, a brother that you never talk to anymore, like this guy, obviously his brother. But you're right, and then I've seen them where they've done that and then like they follow the guy and wait for him to drop a cigarette butt or something. It's always that. Yes. Don't smoke, because don't drop your cup. Because they're going to run and grab your DNA off of it. So, I tell you what, this Detective Britton, he was like, obviously this guy committed a heinous, horrible crime, but it's actually changed like how he views rehabilitation. Like this guy lived probably, essentially a perfect life. Now he probably had to, obviously, because he can't mess up and get caught. But, he's like, obviously, you broke out of jail. You can't do that. You can't kill your parents because they won't let you go see the undead. But, he kind of changed his mind a little bit on how he views like prisoners and the whole rehabilitation process. So I thought that was kind of, kind of interesting. Now, apparently like, the kid, his brother, oh my gosh, think about like how he's I would love to know what his life was like. He's got to have such a terrible, he probably had a terrible life. He loses his brother to jail. He loses both his parents. He's 13 at the time. He has to go live with like long distance, relatives. Man, crazy story though. I mean,
it really is, man. It's crazy.
Managed to live a whole entire life without getting caught. Like it's just it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, in the 60s you broke out of prison. It was like, I guess if you could get away, they weren't that sophisticated, now, I mean, because nations didn't communicate, police systems and everything else and investigative, systems didn't communicate in the same way. So it was like, if you could get out of the state, you probably had a decent chance. And then just stop committing crimes. That's the problem. Most of the time they didn't stop committing crimes. It was like, well, I robbed 13 banks. Now I'm out. I broke out. What am I going to do? Well, I need to rob a bank. I got to get some money again, so they start to, and I need to leave my calling card behind to make it super cool. So everyone knows who did this diabolical scheme.
Absolutely. Well, crazy story, man. I just, I was like, man, this guy got away with this forever. Raised a family, lived a great life.
Yeah.
And all the while,
I mean, can you imagine though how he must have felt? I mean, at a certain point, I'm sure you can put things out of your mind and enough time goes by, but secretly carrying that guilt around for that period of time that you murdered your parents.
Oh yeah.
And, I mean, that's got to just be insane.
It's funny because they even mentioned that in the article. Like they went back through and found like his Bible verses that he had highlighted. It was all about forgiveness and things like that. So he definitely, it seems like this guy was probably living with it. And I think that's, I think that the kids kind of look back and be like, maybe this is why he was so like, so giving and like why he was So I think they said they found the Bible. There are lots of highlighted lines about sin, guilt, and forgiveness. I think it weighed on his mind for the rest of his life. That was his son saying that. So
gotta think. I mean,
I mean, you would hope so. Yeah,
kind of sticks with you.
You would hope so. Yeah.